Hey there, good morning. So, I am Kathy Spooner, and today I want to talk. Hey there. So, I am streaming live into YouTube and my Instagram channel, Facebook group, and where else? LinkedIn, Facebook group, YouTube, and Instagram. So, alrighty. So, Today, I want to talk about something I think in the play therapy arena we kind of work around. And over the last 30 years in mental health, working with children, adolescents, and families, one of the things that I've learned specifically working with adolescents is sometimes it's hard to engage them because we use an adult therapy model with adolescents who are still developing, meaning they're not quite fully developed cognitively, socially, emotionally, and we engage them in therapy as if they're adults. And I don't know about you guys, I've worked with adults in therapy, and sometimes it's hard for them to do what I've asked them to do, like going a little deeper in their what's going on and trying to gain insight. That's hard for clients to do, especially in those really painful areas. So I think one of the things in play therapy that we have been kind of figuring out is how do you use a play therapy model with adolescents? Because when you think play therapy, you tend to think children, and you want to make sure you're meeting the needs of your adolescent client and not kind of insulting them like they're children. So, where is that happy medium using play therapy with adolescents to help them in with their unique needs in the therapy process engage in change? So that's what I want to talk about today. I am Kathy Spooner. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a registered play therapist supervisor. And I have been working in the play therapy arena for the last 20 years and mental health overall for the last 30. But I was introduced to play therapy back in the 1980s. It just took me a while to find how to get that training. So I am a firm believer that if you are working with children and adolescents, then you really need to be trained using a model that is developmentally geared towards children and adolescents, because that's what we do in graduate school. The focus on graduate school when we're learning how to do the psychotherapy process, those are all adult models. And those of us who feel called to work with children, adolescents, and families, we don't necessarily get that child and adolescent therapy framework in graduate school. So I really think it's important, if that's the population you feel called to really make sure that you get the training and supervision or consultation that's going to help you meet those needs more effectively. And for me, now that I've been in the mental health field 30 years, I feel like at this point, I really enjoy teaching you how to use what I've learned over the last 30 years to help your clients. And so that's a little bit about why I like to do these live streams, is to pass along that information, as well as tell you that I have some trainings and some supervision. If you're interested, there are some things that I've been doing to help others, child and adolescent therapists, make sure that you are getting the most benefits for your clients. And so today's topic is really about, oh, you know what? Let me ask. So if you're watching live, I'd love to know who's here. I'd love to know your questions. So feel free to post those. If you're watching, please go ahead and post your name where you're from, what population you work with, what questions you have. Are you working with adolescents? Are you using play therapy with your adolescent clients? So go ahead and post those in the comments. Let's see who's here. So today what I want to talk about is how can you use play therapy? So actually, can you use play therapy with adolescents to help them overcome whatever mental health challenges that they're experiencing? And I say yes. In fact, a lot of what I'm going to talk about today regarding adolescents and how you can use play therapy, I use it with adults, especially adults who've experienced trauma. I found it to be a really, really effective way to help them. Hi, Rachel. Oh, Philadelphia. Actually, Rachel, I was actually born in Philadelphia 60 years ago. So I'm currently living on the West Coast in Southern Nevada, but we are from the Washington, D.C. area. So it's always nice to connect to some other East Coasters. Brings me back to home. I don't want to move back there. I like it out here. And it's always nice to connect. Alrighty. So first and foremost, can you use play therapy with adolescents? Yes. And when you're working with adolescents, what I found is really, really important, and this is over the last 30 years doing this, I found that really understanding the adolescent tasks of development that you are working with your adolescents to accomplish is really, really important. So there are essentially three. I'm trying to find my banners. Oh, I went the wrong one. Sorry, working around on my StreamYard platform here. So what are the developmental tasks of adolescents that you are working with them to navigate through? So one of the things, first and foremost, think about it this way. So when Erickson developed these, so this is going to take you back to graduate school days. You may be having flashbacks right now. It's always good to go back to your roots. So think the psychosocial developmental tasks that Erickson talked about, one of the hallmarks is as children are and adults, because he goes from birth to death, during those transitions from one developmental stage to another developmental stage, there are what he calls psychosocial crises, meaning there are difficulties and challenges that your clients are working through in order to help them get to the next stage. So in adolescence, those tasks that they're working through are essentially, who am I? Am I lovable and acceptable? Do I belong? And how am I? They're also looking towards the future. They're looking towards launching into their young adult life. So the questions of who am I? Those are really rooted in a lot of their attachment relationships from early on, where they get some of those beliefs about themselves, where they also learn about relationships. How do I belong in this group? So they're moving away from predominantly family relationships and parent-child relationship to figuring out who they are independent of their primary family relationships. And this is really essentially helping them to move towards that launching process, because they've got to be able to navigate the world independently on their own, so to speak, as young adults. And so learning how to navigate those social relationships and romantic relationships, and figuring out not only who am I, but who am I within relationship to other people, and how do I do that? And that's going to also influence how I am moving towards looking towards my future and figuring out what I want to do in my next step. So these are the developmental tasks of adolescents. If you're working with adolescents, you're kind of assessing where they are in this process. And the thing is, the next thing to think about is how have their mental health challenges and problems creating some challenges for them to effectively navigate through these developmental tasks. And these mental health challenges will cause some additional challenges for them on top of the already typical challenges of navigating these tasks, because depression, anxiety, behavior problems, all our trauma, these are all going to impact how they view themselves. And so it impacts, so if I'm anxious, then then I'm going to be anxious in relationships. I'm not necessarily going to know how to navigate what's going on for me, plus make sure I'm figuring out how relationships work. And with depression, a lot of times they'll feel, you'll get adolescents who struggle with believing there's any hope for the future. So why would I look towards the future? Because what's the point? Everything is crap. Also, beliefs about themselves in terms of, am I valuable? Am I acceptable? Am I enough? All of that stuff that Brene Brown talks about in terms of shame resiliency. All of these beliefs about self and beliefs about others and beliefs about how relationships work are all, I love using the term core beliefs. So my core beliefs are those beliefs that I have about who I am. Am I lovable? Am I acceptable? Am I enough? Are relationships safe? Are people safe? Am I capable of engaging in healthy relationships and being loved and valued and accepted? These are all tied to core beliefs, which are then influenced and interfere with those developmental tasks of adolescents. And also, it's important to look at these core beliefs in terms of their mental health challenges and what's going on with those. So when you're working with adolescents, these are kind of the ways in which you conceptualize some of the basic fundamental issues going on, to get a sense of what's going on with their mental health challenges. And this can be a little hard to do sometimes because there's a lot going on there. I know when we did this last Saturday in my online, or not Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago, in my online supervision group, looking at some of these developmental tasks where our clients in those developmental tasks, and then how are those being influenced? Because one of the things that's important about taking trainings and getting supervision with populations that you're working with, and we as mental health professionals are lifelong learners. That's how I look at it, always kind of looking and seeing what are the most effective ways to help clients. And so we're conceptualizing those. And even like I have a training that I created. It's an online on demand, so self-paced, specifically targeting these things for adolescents using play therapy, because what I found is that there's a really effective way to integrate play therapy and expressive arts with adolescents, where we can use expressive arts to explore those core beliefs, get a sense of what's going on with their mental health challenges, and then what's a framework based on theory, because theory drives application. And in this course, I talk about the neuroscience and attachment aspects in addition to the developmental things going on to give you a framework um, how to conceptualize what's going on with your clients. And then you can use the expressive arts to help them with that, which brings me to the next thing. So when we're working with adolescents, we're thinking about what are their unique needs, what are the unique tasks that they're working on, and then how does their mental health impact that? And here we want to look at core beliefs and how those are influenced in their mental health challenges showing up in your office. And then so we know those things. Now, how can play therapy really help these adolescent clients? And what I'm about to say, I do this with adults too, to be honest, and I found it really useful. So, play therapy, if you can access the therapeutic powers of play, which is a fundamental aspect of play therapy, fundamental to all play therapy models, is how do you help your client access those therapeutic powers of play for healing? So, one of the things we know about play therapy is given the free and protected space, our clients will naturally move towards healing and wholeness. And so, accessing those therapeutic powers of play allows clients to find ways to work through whatever it is that's going on for them within their developmental framework. And to do that, one of the things that I found most useful with adolescents is expressive arts. So, art, poetry, music. For those of you who are trained to use drama and trained to use dance and movement, those are other expressive arts modalities that are really, really powerful as well. And so, within a framework of play therapy, we are using those therapeutic powers of play. We're helping clients access those therapeutic powers of play through expressive arts. And through expressive arts, you can help them explore core beliefs. You can help them explore those questions of who am I? Do I belong? What are those factors that are contributing to faulty beliefs about self? Looking at those attachment relationships and how those have influenced what's going on, using neuroscience and attachment to understand that mind-body connection for emotion regulation. And so in this online training that I've created, it's called Expressive Arts in Play Therapy with Adolescents. The first and foremost, taking a look at the neuroscience and attachment framework lens, using that, and then looking at how those are showing up in adolescence to understand the tasks of adolescents that are being impacted and how to facilitate change, working through some of those crises, some of those mental health challenges by helping your adolescent clients to access therapeutic powers of play through art, through music, through poetry. I love using poetry. And so for the therapeutic powers of play that get access through expressive arts, you can use access to the unconscious. Maybe there are things that they're not necessarily ready to consciously explore, or maybe they don't even know what's there or how to articulate that. They can do that through music, through poetry, through art, through dance, through movement. All of that can be expressed symbolically and experientially in a way that maybe cognitively they're not able to give that voice. You can use the therapeutic powers of play to help with some cognitive restructuring, some counter conditioning, meaning here's what I'm anxious or depressed about, but maybe there's another way to think about doing that and trying it this way. And so you can use expressive arts to help them explore those different avenues. Um, so to me, these are really important ways of being able to first and foremost, through expressive arts, helping them to explore the questions of who am I, helping me understand others and my beliefs about others. Are they safe? Are they not safe? Am I capable? Do I know how to have relationships and friendships? Do I even, like all adolescents, I told my kids this when they were teenagers and now they're young adults. I said to them, you know what, buddy, because I have sons, you know what, buddy, this is what adolescence is for. This is teenage years. I mean, you're figuring all of this out and it's hard. And, here's the thing, adolescents typically developing adolescents and adults, we all have insecurities. We all have things that we're like, oh, I'm not very good about that. I mean, imposter syndrome is real for adults. We're like, I don't know how people are going to see I'm a big fraud. We all struggle with those. Um, and when you add mental health challenges on top of that, it makes it even more difficult to navigate through these developmental tasks. And the thing is, what we know about the psychosocial stages, the stages of psychosocial development, is failure or inability to navigate through earlier crises or earlier developmental tasks means we just take that into the next stage. So what happens if we don't help our clients, our teenage clients, navigate through some of these mental health challenges and successfully kind of work their way through these developmental tasks, then they take that into their next phase of development. And so we have the ability as play therapists to be able to use these therapeutic powers of play through expressive arts that meets their developmental needs of not always having to be insight oriented or cognitively focused. I mean, we want them to understand and identify what's going on for sure. And there's a way to do that is a little more adolescent friendly, shall we say, um, where they can have it symbolically represented. And when they're ready to explore that, when they're psychologically ready to explore that, they can, but they can still begin to process using expressive arts. And to me, that's one of the huge benefits. And in this course that I mentioned, we have lots of ideas that I have in there, lots of experiential activities that you can do using it within the framework, because here's how I feel about it. I mean, most of us use an integrated approach. If you're working in therapy, you're using it in a integrated approach. So having a framework to stick in those interventions that you're learning means that you're still focused on what are the treatment targets that you need to hit and help your clients accomplish so that they can move all the way successfully through the treatment process. And so that's in this course, there's a framework that you learn. And then also, how are you integrating expressive arts to really target these core tasks of adolescents that are impacted by their mental health challenges to help them successfully work through all of these tasks that they need to accomplish. So that is it for today. Just as a recap, first and foremost, thinking about what are the developmental tasks of adolescents. They do have their own unique developmental tasks that they're working through. And I forgot to mention this part. One of the things about thinking in terms of developmental tasks, as well as context, their environment, family, school, community, those kinds of things, is you can also see if your adolescent clients maybe have some earlier tasks of development that they haven't fully resolved, which now gives you a chance to help them work through those as well. So thinking about the developmental needs of adolescents, cognitively, socially, and emotionally, they are not adults. They are still forming those frontal lobes. They are still trying to figure out relationships and that question of who am I? What do I believe about others? And figuring out how to launch. Launching into adulthood is scary. And the closer they get to that, the more anxiety producing it is. Just even for early adolescent children transitioning here in the United States, we have our school system is essentially elementary school, and then we have middle school, which is early adolescence, and then we have high school, which is more later adolescence. But even that transition from um, elementary school, like fifth grade, into sixth grade, if the sixth grade goes into middle school, that's a scary time for kids, and they're nervous about these changes and expectations for growing up and developing. Can I do it? Who am I? What are my beliefs about others? What are my beliefs about relationships? How do I do these relationships? I don't want to get made fun of. All of these things. So thinking about their developmental needs, they are not adults. They are figuring things out, and expecting them to have higher level cognitive and social functions like we would expect of adults is not really realistic for them. And then, secondly, thinking about how their mental health challenges have impacted their social emotional development, which you'll notice this in their core beliefs. Their core beliefs about myself, others, and relationships are going to impact my ability to do that identity formation of who am I, and also the figuring out relationships with other people, other peers who are also we have, yes, all transitions come with challenges, absolutely. um Agreed. Any transition. And then think of that also, like as adults, we're kind of, I mean, we don't like them. I personally hate them. I never enjoy them. And I know that they can help me grow. So that's kind of my mindset. But adolescents, they're still developing. They're still figuring out. They don't even have the life experiences to be able to figure those things out. So when they kind of get stuck in those transitions, for adolescents, they need even more support and understanding of how to help them navigate through that. So that's an excellent point. Um, so thirdly, how can you use play therapy to help your adolescent clients navigate through those developmental tasks? And the thing about those therapeutic powers of play, you can help them access the unconscious. You can help them explore their core beliefs, and then do some cognitive restructuring, some shame resiliency building. You can help them explore their relationships, and you can use art or poetry or any of the expressive arts to explore some creative problem solving. Like, what would that look like if you were to try it this other way? You can see behind me all my sand tray miniatures. I love using sand tray. Art and sand tray are probably two of my favorite modalities to use in play therapy. And you can see so much. A picture really is worth 1,000 words. And while your client may not necessarily see it, you'll get a sense of what's going on with them and know how to help move them through the change process. So that is it for today. That is, to me, in a nutshell, when you're working with adolescents, can play therapy help your adolescent clients? And I would definitely say yes. And in order to do that, I think it's really important that you have a framework that's grounded in theory and informed by research. And you have a way to help your adolescent clients really engage more deeply in the change process. And in my experience, that means helping them access the therapeutic powers of play through expressive arts. And to do that, having a framework in order to understand and conceptualize the problems that you're working on, so that when you're identifying those interventions, then you have an idea what you want to help them accomplish using the expressive arts. And so a lot of that is what I do in my online group supervision and also in the online course that I have available. So if you are interested in those, the online course, if you're interested in that, it's called Expressive Arts in Play Therapy with Adolescents. You can hop over to my website at rrhcounseling.com/courses. You can check it out, see if it's something that would be useful for you. I also have openings in my online play therapy supervision group and consultation group. We meet twice a month. We look at that conceptualization piece, and I can take my 30 years of experience and kind of help you get there quickly to make sure that what you're doing with your client is really where they need to be. The other thing is, and this is what I've noticed too, because I can conceptualize after 30 years of doing this, I can get there kind of quickly, and then help you. And then we work together. It's not just me telling you what to do. Work together to figure out for your clients what works, what's going to help them. And then honestly, it kind of helps you feel less burned out and overwhelmed and lost. I remember those feelings really early on, and being very thankful for my play therapy supervisor who helped me get through some of those things when I was lost. So again, if you're interested, I will also post in the comments a link to my website. If you're interested in the online supervision group that I have with we have some amazing professionals in that group, you can go on my website and schedule a free 30-minute video call. The purpose of the video call is to make sure this is a good fit for you and that you're ready to move forward, and it will help you to get where you need to be with your clients. So again, I go live every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific time on LinkedIn, my YouTube channel, and in my Facebook group, Play Therapy and Expressive Arts Playground. If you're in the mental health field working with children, adolescents, and families using play therapy and expressive arts, feel free to hop over there and join the group. You do have to answer the questions, though, to get in the group. And I go live now. I figured out how to do it on Instagram while I'm doing this one. So I will see you next week. Bye.